Hello, today we have a video about how to get 6 splits or 6 bee packages from one colony for the next year, meaning either 6 colonies, and also to get honey. For this we will need 2 diaphragms. Our colony is coming out of winter, all according to the classic scheme. We feed it for about 10-12 days with half a cup of sugar syrup. For those who have it, we provide protein feed. For those who haven't watched our video, check out the one about protein feeds. It's a convenient thing. We placed it on top of the frames and the bees receive protein from you, both at night and during the day. And it fast boosts. Protein feed is given when there are no more cold snaps. That is, when you already know that it is warming up and there are no more cold snaps. Because for many, when there is a bit of sunshine, the bees fly in, they don't eat faster. You need to wait until there are no more cold snaps. And this is how your bees develop. Your task is to successfully boost the colony in order so that it has full brood in both boxes, and effectively. And both boxes should be full of bees. That is, they should be packed to the brim. Your task is to ensure the upper entrance is closed and the lower entrance is slightly open, just enough for 2 or 3 bees. The bees are used to flying in here. When we have 2 boxes filled with brood, we set these 2 boxes aside and place an empty box with drawn comb at the bottom. At this time of year, it can just be empty comb. We take out 2 frames from here, just pull out 2 frames, and we will place 2 frames with sealed brood and the queen from the hive into this box. Here we find the queen along with the 2 frames of brood, and we can also add 1 feeding frame from the edge. Now we place everything in this box. The bees are used to flying here, so all the forager bees will come here, ensuring there will be enough bees for the queen. What we do next is take the frames we removed and place them in the upper box. Then we take the diaphragm, place it, and at this method we only open 1 small plug where the queen excluder is located. For those who haven't seen it, check out our diaphragm video. We have a large queen excluder here and 2 small ones. In this method, when we need to obtain about 6 or 7 queen cells or more, we only open 1 small plug. This is very important. We opened it, took it out, and placed it next to it. Everything else remains closed. Everything else is completely closed for now. And we return these 2 boxes with bees and brood to their place. We put them back in place, and in the diaphragm we have 1 entrance at the back, 1 on the side, and 1 in the front. We open all the entrances. Both the back and side, as well as the front entrances in the diaphragm, are open. For now we can keep the entrances completely closed. Let's close them. We close it and forget for exactly 10 days, no more than 9-10 days. After 10 days, we come here, and our queen has been working below. All the foraging bees flew down, so we didn't lose anything. The queen continued to develop there with 2 frames of brood for all these 10 days, and the bees effectively mastered the lower box during this time, meaning the queen was laying eggs there. And they serviced. And here the bees raised quality queens collectively, because I repeat many times, because the bees had communication with their queen through this small window that we opened. But this window is small, and therefore there was not enough queen pheromone, and they laid quality wax queen cells here. The queens themselves would not have been very high quality, but since there was communication with the queen, the queens that emerge from these cells will be of high quality. For the reason that there was communication and the entire colony participated in the rearing of these queen cells. These queen cells are only inferior to silent replacement and swarming queen cells in quality. And not very much, because in such cases the bees carefully select the best larvae, which is very important. They do not just panic and start laying queen cells because they have lost their queen. No, they still have the queen and communicate with her through this window. Therefore, they select the best larvae that have just hatched and lay these queen cells on them, which is why the quality is very high. Using the artificial method of transferring larvae, as most people do to raise queens, you will never see such high quality queen cells. Your next action is to open the colony. Here you will have queen cells in 2 supers and you need to find them. Just lift and check if there is 1 or 2 queen cells here. You set them aside. Now I will show you everything. For this, you take an empty super, just an empty super. In each super, we have made such grooves. For those who haven't seen them yet, look, now I will show you what they are for. In general, we took such an empty super, which is divided into 3 parts, using these grooves and inserts that are placed inside. And here we found a queen cell. Here we have brood, bees, and a queen cell. We place 1 queen cell in 1 compartment, another in the middle, where we will also check further. We found 3 and placed them in 3. We take 2 of these supers, meaning we take another empty super and do this in 1 more empty super right away. And the second super is the same, so that each compartment has 1 queen cell. We place 1 queen cell in each. We found and checked. The queen cell is good, high quality, 1 or 2, and we place them. So here, in this super, we definitely have 3 queen cells. And in this one, there are definitely 3 queen cells. What do we do next? Similarly, from these supers, we select frames with brood, preferably with brood that is closer to the one that is about to emerge. And we place so that each one also has 1 frame with bees and brood. We place in each of these compartments, that is 3 in one hive and 3 in the lower hive. We have a large number of frames freed up here. We take the frames and already with comb, with some vegetables, we place them. In these 2 supers from which we selected the brood and queen cells, we filled them and set them aside for now. We remove this diaphragm that was here and we set it aside too. From here, we have selected the queen cells. There are no more queen cells here, and we have taken a significant part of the brood. From here, we have pulled out the actual brood, along with the bees from the 2 supers. And additionally, we can even shake 1 frame with bees into each nook. So we have actually taken both the bees and the brood from here. And we confidently return these 2 hives, now without the diaphragm. We give it to the old mother. It has already completely occupied the lower code in these 10 days. And now this family will develop upward with a clear conscience. That is, this queen will now start moving into this super, and the bees will adapt to these 2 supers. They will not disturb us, and we will not disturb them. We return this diaphragm back to its place, and we close this insert tightly. We closed it tightly. What we do next is take this super, in which we place 3 queen cells and brood with bees, and we return it on top, placing it above the diaphragm. Then we take these inserts. For those who haven't seen them, check out our previous video. These inserts are made of plywood, fiberboard, or anything else, with a film on top and a strip for rigidity, and we insert them into the hive. Thus, we carefully and precisely position 1 partition in its place, take the second partition, and position the second one in its place. This way, we have divided it into 3 parts. That is, we have 3 splits, a flight zone. We adjust it so that everything fits neatly into the grooves. Now we have 3 splits here. We smoothed out the plastic sheet. The plastic sheet prevents the bees from crossing over to each other. And on top of it, we place the second separating grid. We placed it carefully on top. Then we gently return to the body where there are indeed 3 more splits. And this body where we have the other 3 queen cells and brood, we also place it carefully on top of the separating grid. Note that this entrance must be round and completely closed, while the diaphragm here is open. And here in the diaphragm it should be closed, while this one should be open. In order to slightly increase this distance so that the bees do not run over and harm each other. The queen is closed here, so this entrance is open. This queen will mate and return here. Here, on the contrary, it is closed. The queen will mate and return here. These entrances are all as usual, and we also insert our inserts into this body. We inserted one, and are inserting the other, covering it with the lid. This way our family continues to develop. The queen goes up. Here, 3 queens will mate, and here, 3 queens will mate. After we performed the first procedure when we placed the diaphragm and separated the queen from the main nest. From that moment we count 30 days. After 30 days we approach, remove the lid, open it, take out the frame, and check. We take it from the center and check if there is brood or young larvae or eggs. If there are, we check all 6 of them. If all are present, it means all the queens have mated and started laying. If by chance 1 queen did not return from mating, it's not a big deal. You will have 5 splits instead of 6. We hope that all have returned from mating. So, what are our next steps? They can be left like this to develop. They benefit from the warmth of the main family, and further development goes very well. I will now explain why this is also necessary. That is, we are not losing anything. In this form, we are actually approaching the main honey flow. Here, this family has developed very well during this time, because we removed a huge part of the brood and bees from here. This family will not swarm in any way. The queen is replaced annually. That is, the development is very good, because every year with this method, the queen is changed. What do we do? Stay tuned. There are 2 options for further development. The first option is the main one. Your colony developed without interference, and these splits above, using the warmth of the main colony, developed very well. Here, the film that was placed is not a problem. It also transmits heat very well, and these splits at the very top were also warm, so the development is wonderful. What you should do is, after you check if you have larvae everywhere, meaning the queen has started laying eggs, you take a protein patty. For the split, you have a lot. You simply cut it in half with a knife and place half in each division, about 6 pieces. This will give them a very good start. If there is an extra patty, you can also give it to the main colony. So, when you see that there is egg laying here, you have given them a good start. Now, for those who don't have it, this can be skipped. The bees will develop. But, of course, with protein feeding it goes much faster because they have a constant influx of protein, both day and night. And because of this, the bees push the queen to lay as many eggs as possible. So this is actually very beneficial. Many think that this is an expense, but in reality, it is not. You win. You win a lot. Feeding is always a plus. You always win. So look, because development leads to honey or bees, that is, it depends on what each person is engaged in. This method is more aimed at those who want to obtain both honey and are involved in the sale of packages and bees. So here you have everything in brood. That is, there is quite a lot of brood. Everything is filled. That is, you have fed them. They developed by using the warmth of the colony. Everything is filled with bees. You are already a bit cramped here. So when you are cramped and you are approaching the main honey flow, what are your actions? Now I will show everything in detail. So what do? You take an empty super and place it on your already existing bottom board. You take out 3 frames from the middle. The rest is foundation wax. You take the entire split along with the bees. You can even skip finding the queen until you feel calm. So together with the bees, you place it here. When there are a lot of bees, you simply don't look for the queen. You placed it, then check if the queen is crawling somewhere on the wall. Next, to avoid interference, you can remove this, twist it here, take the next 3 frames, and do the same in the next one. Place your super on your bottom board, meaning just in the empty hive, and you're done. So, all 6 of them. You completely arrange all 6 pieces in sets of 6, meaning if you have boxes for splits, then we have everything in supers mainly. So you covered them with your lids and arranged them around the apiary. There's no need to take them anywhere, just put them back in their places. So all of these, meaning all 6 pieces, you have removed. So we have removed and arranged all these 6 splits, and now we have the family in its pure form, just as it was. During this time, it has already filled everything here. What do? We do not place it like that. We leave it as is. Just remove this upper super to the side, take another super, and place it in the split. It can be so that there is more foundation here. You can even place a full super at this time of year without worry, and we return everything back. So, we wait for the main honey flow. And here it begins. What you do is take and add supers here. You add all 6 supers in their place. You have placed them. That's it. This is how the colony goes into the main honey flow. But you have obtained 6 splits. But you haven't replaced the queen. What exactly needs to be done in order to achieve this? This is done during the main honey flow, or rather at its end. That is, when your honey flow is practically over, but still quietly ongoing. At that particular moment in time, you search for the queen in this hive. So your honey flow has officially ended. You've removed the supers with honey, and yet the flow is still continuing just a little bit. You take the supers with honey away for processing. Then at this point, you find the queen here. We carefully look for the queen. And here's precisely what we need to do next. We take an empty super, remove 2 empty frames from it, and here we find the queen. With 2 frames of brood, we place the queen, and the 2 frames of brood here. And on the edge, we place 1 feeding frame. So, in this empty super, we now have 2 frames of brood, the queen, and 1 feeding frame. So, what exactly do we do next? We also add empty frames in the middle here. They will still be storing some honey here because there is still a bit of honey flow left. But this is always the case. Everyone probably knows this. You take it away, and there is still a little bit of honey flow continuing. It is already breathing its last, but it is still there. And you need this, so you placed it. Then you take the queen excluder. You place it in its place. It is all closed. We only open this small plug and place it next to it. We opened it and placed it. Next, here we have the queen on 2 frames. That is the old queen that has worked through the season. She is here on top with 2 frames of brood and a feeding frame, and we leave her up there. We close it. After 10 days, when you have placed the diaphragm, you lift it and simply insert this insert back like this. That's it. Here you will already have sealed queen cells. You inserted them so that when the queen emerges, one does not kill the other. Rather, the bees can simply destroy either this queen or that one. Close it. And forget it for 28 days. We forgot about this colony for 28 days. Here we have all the brood and all the bees, so there is still enough space, because there are 3 supers here. And here we have an empty super with an old queen and a feeding frame. Through this opening, the bees will continue to care for this queen. the entrance must be open. This is essential. And here, the entrance must be open at the bottom, but we are already reducing it because it's getting to autumn. We are reducing it. We leave a slightly flat entrance open and a completely open round entrance. The bees continue to communicate with their old queen. As many bees as needed crawl there to care for that queen and the brood. The main bees remain here. Since their communication with the queen is interrupted and they lack sufficient pheromones, they lay 2, 3, 4, at most 5 quality queen cells here, because at this time of year they never lay more. Thanks to the fact that they communicate here, the same thing happens as we did during spring development. So it's the same story. But here we don't divide anything or touch anything afterwards. Due to the fact that there won't be any brood down here for some time, the bees take advantage of the main honey flow, filling everything with honey because they won't have any brood to feed. They will feed the brood they have, but won't feed anyone else because this new queen that will emerge will be mating. They have a very long time to fill everything with honey. They fill it with honey, and we will need this honey very much. Why? Because when our queen emerges, she will indeed start laying eggs. There will be a young queen bee that emerges, and she will develop. And they will use this honey for autumn development. But even with this method, we lose nothing at all. Because since we provided a queen here, this queen also has the same unnatural problem. That is, autumn is already approaching, and this queen has only 2 frames of brood left. And there are as many bees as needed, because as many bees crawl in as necessary to serve the queen. Then this queen reaches her final peak. She tries with all her might to fill this hive body. So after 28 days, we open it. We simply take this and set it aside. We set it aside, and then we take it here and search. Most often, we find it in the middle, in this hive body, or the next one. You will have young larvae or eggs or both, most likely. This indicates that the queen has mated and everything is fine. What are your actions? You can merge them right away. Immediately take the diaphragm, crush the upper queen, and you will have a young queen. But it's better not to do that. It's better to act smarter. What you do is better to do this. You return this old queen along with the bee with brood to its place. The diaphragm is fully closed. We closed everything on the 10th day after we placed her. And this small colony develops on its own. Meanwhile, this young queen continues her development as well. There is still something in nature. The bees are bringing something. For those who have it, I will repeat, protein feeding. For those who have no protein feed at all, you can use milk, pouring half a cup of sugar syrup, to which 10% milk, preferably goat's milk, is added. This will also provide very good development. But you will only be able to feed through the top feeder of the upper colony to give it development. And this will still be. So, when you raise the protein feeds there, placed and lowered everything, and you have it here, and you have vigorous development, and the bees are very well building up their fat bodies and developing very well in the fall, just like in spring. Therefore, this is always beneficial. So look further. Your bees continue to develop like this practically until the cold, until September. In September, what you simply do is prepare for winter. That is, the nests, a preliminary preparation for winter. And this means combining these 2 colonies at the same time. What can be done? You can immediately remove the diaphragm firmly. This means the bees will find out for themselves which queen is better. And they will leave that one. They will most likely leave this young one, almost 100% sure. But, for your own peace of mind, so that you have a young queen left, you simply find this upper queen, destroy her, remove the diaphragm, and the bees are merged. Come back in a couple of days, already preparing the nest for winter. This can be done all at once, meaning you simply take 1 queen, all the brood, everything you have, place it below, and put the honey super on top. Consider this almost ready. Later, you will come and take the lower super after the brood is gone. You will have 2 almost full honey supers. One will be completely capped, and the other will have a little meaning. It will be somewhat half filled depending on the conditions. Thus, you have obtained both honey and your colony did not swarm. And you got either 6 young colonies, bee packages, or just splits depending on what you need. These splits, which you obtained using protein feeding and a light honey syrup, can also be self-boosted and effectively turned into strong colonies by autumn. How we do this, watch in our videos. We demonstrate it there.